because he would listen to what they had to say. Even though he knew every single one of their hearts, he would still hear what they had to say to him. And so we had to do these things. We had to open ourselves up. And so if you sat down or had lunch with Jesus or had anything with Jesus, did anything with Jesus, what do you think he would say? Because in many things, you see Jesus challenging people's mind. You see him challenging the way people thought. You see him challenging the way people thought about things and what they actually thought about life itself and about the things they did. He made them think or rethink of what position they standed on. He made them rethink everything. So if you had lunch with Jesus, all right. So what would you think he would say to you? What do you think some things he would question you about? What do you think he would question you on some of your positions or the way you think? What do you think he would challenge you on? Just think about that. Just think about that. I don't want you to hear So in John 3:16, he talks about being rebirthed. Why do you think Nicodemus in the first place even want to talk to Jesus? He talked to him at night, so people wouldn't see him talking with Jesus Christ. He was still a scribe, he was still a Pharisee, and the Pharisee and the scribe didn't like Jesus. So why do you think Nicodemus even went out at night to a person that in his group was known as a person that they really didn't like, as a person that they really didn't care about, they thought that was wrong. Why do you think Nicodemus went out? Because there's no explanation in the scripture. And how would you have reacted if Jesus told you what he told Nicodemus in verse 3? Knowing nothing about Christ or God, only your idea that only knowing about the old things, about the law, knowing only about sacrifice and things. What do you think? What would your response? What would your response be to if somebody told you had to be reborn again and to be saved? What would your response be? What would your response be? What would your response be?
I guess I would what is wrong with me that I have to be reborn again?
Okay.
Why?
Okay. Anyone else?
Well, it hurts.
It hurt.
Y'all was
What does it mean?
yeah.
How does it feel? How do you work?
Yeah, I was just questioning it so much. I didn't know God. I was like,
So you asked me if he said to ask me how to be reborn?
Uh-huh.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
People say so, I'm like, where did you get this from? Because I think sometimes where a person got the information from is, or their answer to it, not even where they got it from, but how they answer where they got it from, tells a lot about whatever they said before. So I think that's probably what I was at. Probably would have squinted a little bit and said, yeah. So, what church you go to? Or what synagogue you go to?
Well, the concept would have been so new, you wouldn't have known even how to comprehend it. I mean, even as a Pharisee, he would have not. It just was been like saying "boogalooka." It's like, what do you mean? Born again by the Spirit, and he just couldn't grasp the concept. And I think that was part of the challenge for the Jews overall, and it's part of our challenge even today.
He actually does say that in the Torah. How can a man be born again? Enter into his second time, enter into his mom's womb. So it is that question of how does that happen? How does that happen? How does that look?
I would probably ask, why is it necessary? I'm a good person. I don't steal.
Exactly.
I don't smoke. I don't hang around those who do. And if I do something bad, I'm only human. Yeah. So why do I need to be born again?
All right. So, this is what is amazing about Christ. Christ is the Word. And this is why we have to continue to read in our Word. So the Spirit of God will speak for us. If we do not rely on the Spirit of God, we rely on our own thinking, our own mindset. If we rely on our own mind, we would never have an answer for that. We would never have an answer for, all right, let me tell him why. This is why Christ was so awesome, because he was the Word and he knew everything. He knew how to respond to these questions, and so his answer was. Verily, verily, I say unto you, except a man be born of water and of spirit, he cannot enter into the kingdom of God. That's is born of the flesh is flesh, and that which is born of the spirit is spirit. Marvel not that I say unto you, must be born again. The wind blows where it listeth, and thou hearest the sound thereof, but canst canst not tell whence it cometh, and whither it goeth. So is everyone that is born in the Spirit. Nicodemus answered and said unto him, How can these things be? Jesus answered and said unto him, Art thou a master of Israel, and knowest not these things? Very verily I say unto thee, we speak that we do know, and testify that we have seen, and you receive not our witness. So, what Christ is saying, that if you being born of flesh, you cannot do the things that God can do. You cannot operate in the spirit if you're just born of flesh. If you're born of this worldly thing. But if you is born of the spirit, if you let your flesh die, if you let this skin and this flesh and your desires of this world die, then you can have the spiritual things. Then you could hold on to these spiritual things that Jesus held on to. Because with Jesus, he before he even went out, he fasted, he prayed, and he did many things, and he was sent to the devil. But before he even went out and did all these things, his flesh was already dead. His flesh was dead to him. He really didn't have any more desires of this world or any more desires of the flesh, of anything, of desires of all these things. So that's what Jesus wants us to be. He wants our only desire to be him. He wants our only desire to be the Father. And so that's what Christ is talking about. He wants our only desire to be him, the Father. Don't let your flesh take hold of your desires. Don't let your flesh take hold or have authority over you. And so Christ and all the things he did, he always had answers. He always did things, but we always had to be open to the things that God is speaking and telling us. We had to be open. Our ears and eyes always have to be open to these things. Because if we keep our ears and eyes closed, we will never be able to grasp and hold on to the things that Christ is telling and speaking to us. Another situation is also in John. Now, I'm not going to read it, but the summary is of it. There was a woman who was caught in adultery. And the Pharisees and scribes, they brought her to Jesus, and he said she was caught in adultery. What should we do? And first Jesus didn't respond. He didn't say anything. He wrote something in the sand, and then he said, the first person without sin cast the first stone. And we all look at it like, why would the Pharisees and the scribes do that? Why would they try to kill her? But if you look at it, they were right. They were still under the law. They were very correct in what they were doing. They were very correct in getting the woman stoned. That was the law. That was supposed to happen. She deserved death. But with Jesus, his response wasn't. It was revolutionary. It was something new. It really wasn't something they ever did. No one ever did or said what Jesus said, because that was blasphemy against God. You can't say oh. No, we're not going to stone her, because that's the law. God gave us the law. We're supposed to do that. We're supposed to do exactly what God tells us to do. So when Christ comes and he says, don't stone her, again, they wasn't open. Their eyes were closed and their ears were closed, so they could not receive the things that God was saying. All they heard was just don't stone her. All they heard was, the fact that Christ, Jesus was here, he was, again, defying the law. But they didn't see past that. They didn't see past what God and what Jesus was trying to do. He was trying to teach them. He was trying to do something past the law. They was trying to teach them to do something past it. Because what the Pharisees and scribes were doing, what the Pharisees and scribes did actually, they put burdens on people, and they didn't care to even help the people with the burdens. They didn't care how the person would, go on from this. They didn't care about the well-being of the person. All they cared was about, we have to do this. We have to, do what God tells us to do. We have to do what the law tells us to do. If you sin, you die, and that's what you deserve. They didn't care much about anything but that. They didn't care about the person's heart. They didn't care about these things.